You're succeeding and you don't even know it. Right now, you're developing instincts that separate predators from prey, but you're too close to see the pattern. Let me show you what you've become. Here's the paradox destroying your confidence. You're making progress, real progress, but you're blind to it. You're comparing yourself to fake success stories on social media, to highlight reels, to people selling you courses on how to be like them. Meanwhile, you've developed something more dangerous: quiet competence, strategic thinking, the ability to move through chaos without flinching. But because it feels natural now, you think it doesn't count. Machiavelli observed this in Renaissance courts. The most dangerous players never announced their power, they simply possessed it. And the moment they recognized what they'd become, they became unstoppable. Here's your problem. You're searching for external validation of internal transformation. You want a certificate that says, you've made it. But mastery doesn't announce itself, it operates. And right now you're operating at a level you don't respect because you've normalized excellence. You've internalized skills that most people will never develop, but you're dismissing them because they came naturally, because they didn't hurt enough, because no one applauded. Success isn't a destination you arrive at, it's a frequency you operate on, and certain signs prove you're already transmitting. Here's what you're about to discover. 7 concrete signs that you've crossed the threshold. How to recognize strategic detachment when you've achieved it. Why your tolerance for certain people has vanished, and what that means. How your relationship with failure has fundamentally shifted. Why you've stopped explaining yourself. And the darkest sign, why success feels emptier than you expected, and why that's actually proof of mastery. Stay until the end, because the 7th sign is the one nobody talks about. It's uncomfortable, and it's undeniable. Let's decode what you've become. You used to justify everything, your choices, your goals, your timeline. You needed people to understand, to approve, to validate your path. Now, you just move. No press releases, no explanations, no defense of your decisions. This shift is seismic. Most people never make it. They spend their entire lives in the courtroom of public opinion, defending choices to judges who have no stake in the outcome. Machiavelli wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." You've become both. You recognize the trap of over-explanation. It's an energy leak, a power drain. Every justification is a negotiation with people who aren't qualified to judge you. You make decisions and announce results. Not plans, not intentions, results. Your friends ask why you're doing something. You smile and change the subject. Not because you're hiding, because their understanding isn't required for your execution. You've stopped posting about your goals. You used to broadcast every intention. Now you move in silence and let your results speak. This is predator behavior. Prey announce, predators stalk. When someone questions your path, you feel nothing. No defensiveness, no anger, no need to convince. Their confusion is data about them, not about you. You've achieved emotional sovereignty. Notice this. You can hold your tongue now. Count to 3 before responding. That pause used to be impossible. Now it's automatic. That's mastery. Wolves don't explain why they hunt. They hunt. Your life is becoming the same. Operational, unapologetic, silent until the kill. But silence is just the surface. There's a deeper shift in who you tolerate. You've noticed something disturbing. People you used to enjoy now irritate you. Conversations that used to be fine now feel like sandpaper. You're becoming judgmental, critical, selective. Good. This isn't you becoming an asshole. This is your standards rising faster than your social circle. Here's what happened. You upgraded your internal operating system. Now you're running on different software. When someone running the old system tries to interface with you, there's friction, incompatibility, and you feel it viscerally. Machiavelli understood. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Your tolerance collapse is intelligence asserting itself. Victim language triggers you instantly. Someone starts complaining without proposing solutions, and you want to leave the room. You used to sympathize. Now you see it as weakness trying to recruit you. Small talk feels like violence. Surface-level conversation about weather, sports, gossip. It's physically painful now. You're not being snobby. Your brain has optimized for signal. It rejects noise aggressively. You've started ghost pruning your social circle. Not dramatically, quietly. You just stop initiating, stop responding promptly, stop being available. You're not angry at these people. You've simply outgrown the frequency they operate on. Here's the test. Think about your 5 closest friends. Ask yourself, are they making you better or comfortable? If the answer is comfortable, you already know what needs to happen. Lions don't travel with hyenas, not out of cruelty, out of necessity. Different prey, different strategy, different altitude. You're not abandoning people, you're honoring your evolution. This feels harsh. It is harsh. It's also necessary. Mediocrity is contagious. Excellence is cultivated in isolation first, community second. You've closed the door on mediocrity. Now let's examine what you've opened the door to. Remember when failure destroyed you? When one setback meant you were fundamentally broken? When you took every loss personally and spiraled for days? That version of you is dead, and you barely noticed the funeral. Now when you fail, you process it like weather data. Interesting, informative, completely impersonal. This is the shift that separates amateurs from masters. Machiavelli, where the willingness is great, the difficulties cannot be great. But here's what he meant. Willingness isn't enthusiasm, it's detachment. The willingness to fail, analyze, and iterate without emotional collapse. You launch things expecting some will fail. You're not hoping they fail. You're not pessimistic. You're statistical. You understand volume and probability. 10 attempts, 3 wins, 7 losses, and you're profitable. This is professional thinking. When something doesn't work, you dissect it surgically. What failed? Why? What variable caused breakdown? You're asking engineer questions, not emotional questions. Not, why does this always happen to me? But, what mechanism broke and how do I fix it? You've stopped announcing failures to your social circle, not out of shame, out of irrelevance. Failure is maintenance now. You don't broadcast when you change your oil, you just do it and keep driving. Here's the killer sign. You can fail publicly and sleep fine that night. The embarrassment that used to paralyze you barely registers. Because you've separated your worth from your results. Your identity is no longer on trial. Foxes get caught in traps regularly. They chew off the limb and keep hunting. Not heroic, not dramatic, mechanical, survival over ego. You've developed the same cold calculation. Ask yourself this question. When was the last time a failure made you question your entire path? If you can't remember, you've crossed over. But detachment from failure is only half the equation. Let's examine what you've become attached to. You've started noticing something. You know things other people don't. Not because you're smarter, because you're systematically collecting information while they're consuming entertainment. And you've learned to keep that information asymmetry intact. You don't correct people anymore. You don't share what you know freely. You've weaponized knowledge. This is a Machiavellian instinct. The prince who telegraphs his intelligence becomes a target. The prince who appears average while operating genius stays safe and effective. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." You're living this now. You downplay your expertise. You ask questions instead of giving answers. You let people underestimate you. You're reading differently now, not for entertainment, for leverage. Every book is a weapons system. Every concept is a tool. You're not trying to be well-read, you're building an arsenal. You've stopped sharing your best ideas in casual conversation. You used to give away your insights freely, hoping for recognition. Now you hoard them. You deploy them only when there's strategic value. This feels selfish. It's not. It's professional. You can sit in meetings and let people propose bad ideas without correcting them. You used to need to be the smartest person in the room. Now you're comfortable being underestimated. Because you're playing a longer game they can't see. Here's the dark test. You've let someone fail because teaching them would cost you competitive advantage. You could have helped. You didn't. Not out of cruelty, out of strategy. Information is currency. You stopped being charitable with it. Predators don't teach prey how to escape. They maintain every advantage. Ecosystem balance requires information asymmetry. You've stopped apologizing for knowing more. Count to 3. In that silence, how many advantages did you just catalog that you haven't told anyone about? That number is your strategic depth. You're collecting knowledge. But there's something you've stopped collecting entirely. Someone praises you. You say thank you. You feel nothing. Not because you're depressed, because external validation has lost its chemical power over you. This is the most disorienting sign. You spent years chasing approval. Now you have it, and it's empty. Most people think this means something's wrong. It means something's right. You've internalized your locus of control. Your dopamine system no longer outsources to external judges. You're self-validating now. This is psychological sovereignty, and it feels like loneliness at first. Machiavelli observed, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions." You're no longer a victim of the praise economy. You've left the marketplace. Compliments bounce off you. Someone says, "Great job," and you feel the same as if they'd commented on the weather. Neutral, informative, emotionally inert. You're not being ungrateful, you're just not dependent. Criticism also bounces. Someone attacks your work and you assess it mechanically. Is the criticism valid? If yes, extract the signal. If no, discard. Zero emotional charge either way. You've become a filter, not a reactor. You've stopped checking metrics obsessively. Likes, views, follows. You glance at them weekly instead of hourly. Not because you don't care about results, because you've separated results from worth. The scoreboard matters, but it doesn't define you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your biggest achievements feel hollow. You hit the goal you spent years chasing, and within 48 hours, you're already looking at the next mountain. This isn't dysfunction. This is the hedonic treadmill of high performers, and you're on it permanently now. Surgeons don't need applause mid-operation. Applause would be a distraction. They need silence, focus, execution. You've become the surgeon of your own life. Spectators are irrelevant. Ask yourself, when was the last time someone's opinion changed your behavior? If you're struggling to remember, you're free. You're free from external validation, but there's a price to that freedom. You've stopped pretending to be a good person. Not because you're evil, because you've accepted you're human. Complex, contradictory, capable of both creation and destruction. You have dark thoughts now, strategic thoughts, manipulative thoughts, ruthless thoughts. And instead of suppressing them in shame, you examine them, learn from them, sometimes deploy them. This is shadow integration, Carl Jung's concept, Machiavelli's practice. The recognition that your darkness isn't a flaw to fix, it's a tool to master. Machiavelli. It is necessary for a prince wishing to hold his own to know how to do wrong and to make use of it or not according to necessity. You've learned to do wrong selectively, strategically, without guilt. You can think Machiavellian thoughts without moral panic. Someone wrongs you and you calculate 3 ways to destroy them. You don't execute all 3. But you could. And that capability doesn't terrify you anymore. It empowers you. You've stopped virtue signaling. You used to perform goodness for social credit. Now you do good things privately and ruthless things when necessary. Your morality has become situational, context-dependent, sophisticated. You can manipulate when required. You know how to read people, find leverage, apply pressure. You used to think this made you a bad person. Now you understand. Everyone manipulates. You're just conscious of it, intentional about it, professional about it. Here's the darkest sign. You've hurt people strategically and slept fine, not out of sadism, out of necessity. You cut someone out who was poisoning your progress. You let someone fail who needed to learn through pain. You prioritized yourself over someone else's comfort, and you made peace with it. Wolves aren't evil for hunting, they're wolves. You're not evil for using your full toolkit, you're effective. Morality without power is performance. Power without morality is chaos. You're building the integration point. This sign scares people. Good. Comfortable people don't change the world. Integrated people do. You've integrated darkness. Now the final sign, the one that confirms everything. Here's the truth they don't tell you. Success doesn't feel how you imagined. You hit your goals, you achieve, you win, and it feels fine. Not euphoric, not fulfilling, fine. And instead of stopping, instead of questioning everything, you set another goal, bigger, harder, more complex. You push the boulder up the next mountain. This is the final sign, the proof you've mastered success mindset. Not because success makes you happy, because success is no longer about happiness. It's about who you become in the pursuit. Machiavelli never wrote about happiness. He wrote about effectiveness, durability, power, because he understood the game is the point. Victory is just permission to play the next round. You've achieved things you once thought impossible, and the day after, you were already strategizing the next thing. No celebration, no rest, just immediate recalibration to the next challenge. This isn't addiction, this is your operating system. You feel most alive during the pursuit, not the achievement. The climb is where you're sharp. The summit is just a viewpoint before the next climb. You've become a professional mountain climber. The mountains are the point. You're no longer chasing external outcomes. You're chasing internal refinement. Each goal is just a mechanism to force your evolution. The business, the body, the skills, they're all just forges, and you're the blade being sharpened. Here's the uncomfortable admission. If someone handed you everything you wanted, you'd be miserable within a month. Not because you're broken, because you've evolved past destination thinking. You're process-oriented now, permanently. Camus said we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because he owns the rock, the mountain, the push. External judges see futility. Sisyphus sees sovereignty. You've become the same. The struggle isn't a bug, it's the feature. Ask yourself, if you achieved everything tomorrow, would you stop? You already know the answer. That's the proof. Let's synthesize what you've learned about yourself. Let's consolidate the pattern. You've stopped explaining yourself because sovereignty doesn't require defense. You've collapsed your tolerance for mediocrity because excellence is your new baseline. You've detached from failure because identity isn't on trial anymore. You've weaponized information asymmetry because knowledge is strategic, not social. You've become immune to external validation because you've internalized your locus of control. You've integrated your shadow self because wholeness requires accepting darkness. And success feels empty because you've evolved past outcome addiction into process mastery. These aren't 7 separate signs, they're 7 facets of one transformation. You've stopped being a person who wants success. You've become a person who embodies success mechanics. The wanting is gone, the operating remains. Machiavelli's secret was never about morality or immorality. It was about effectiveness, about seeing reality clearly and acting decisively within it. You're doing that now, not because someone taught you, because necessity forced your evolution. Here's what happens if you ignore these signs. You keep searching for external proof. You dismiss your progress as insufficient. You compare yourself to fake metrics, and you waste years waiting for permission that you've already earned. You plateau because you don't recognize you've already broken through. But here's what happens if you recognize these signs. You own them, you amplify them, you stop waiting for the world to acknowledge your transformation. You act from the knowledge that you've already crossed the threshold, and everything accelerates. Because confidence isn't something you build, It's something you recognize you already possess. You're not becoming successful. You've already become the kind of person who produces success systematically. Now you just scale. If these signs hit you like recognition, subscribe now. This channel reveals the dark psychology of power that successful people use but never discuss publicly. Drop a comment right now. Write exactly this: I am the pattern. When you write it, you're not affirming some fantasy future self. You're recognizing the operational self you've already become. And tomorrow, when you notice one of these signs manifesting again, don't dismiss it. Recognize it. You're not trying to master success mindset. You've already mastered it. You're just learning to see what you've become. Welcome to the invisible brotherhood of people who stopped chasing success and became success itself.